ended up becoming easy because a lot of times that happens. It's like, hey, it's kind of short notice. Can you do it? No, you can't. All right, next person. I'm glad you were the first. Then. Yeah.
Thank you.
Fantastic goal, Mr. KP Spot. You can be featured on the Delta Network Show Fan Post your photo on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook using the hashtag UFC. Grab your photo, share on the video. Delta available to everyone who deserves a healthy spot. Cheerio tonight. Targeted right shooters fan zone, a free interactive celebration of soccer before hosting the United Nations July 18th. The free fan zone will feature a variety of experiences, free food, giveaway, soccer skills challenges, photo ops, music, fun, and we'll locate in front of Stadium between games from 4 to 7 p.m.
That's a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you also just know it inside and out?
A bit, basically.
Really? I know. I was. On this side.
Welcome to TCF backstage with the University of Minnesota. Tonight's Deportivo Saprissa versus your Minnesota United. Your men and the Warriors on and front. Enjoy.
Hey, go back to your corner.
And get ready for the early special. Minnesota United scores the first 5-match play. You can redeem your tickets to the next early pre-match play on July 1 for a contest here or online. Visit MMA.com for more information.
Or like the United players have.
That usually runs all
So they'll have this and it'll say that. Okay. And an F will be highlighted. Alright, thank you very much. Phil is bring the cup, play the water back. All right.
Please welcome the season ticket holders. Tonight's officials referee Apollo Street, assistant referee Brooke Ortega and Walter Sterling, and the one official is Rick Joseph. Here are your starters for the Deportivo Saprissa. Starting goalkeeper number 22, Alejandro Gomez. Defender number 3, Defender number 42, Defender number 14, Defender number 27, Adrian Kevin. Defender number 6, Aina Mora. Defender number 25, this is number 10, Armin Zero. This is number 21, Juan Franco. Player number 24, Ramirez. And player number 31, Ruben Ramirez. Number 0, Quando sono insieme come volete della Please welcome the season ticket holder, and
All right, everybody move forward. Wow, that's a very dramatic. Yeah, intense song for this. Yes, we'll clap. I don't know what we're clapping for.
Presenting tonight, and a new season ticket holder. Performing tonight, the United States of America. Please welcome the Harrison Skinches.
That's Spanish.
Just And now,
and welcome to TCF Bank Stadium for what will be an invigorating contest between two sides looking to get something completely different out of this game. The Costa Rican champion Saprissa up against Minnesota United FC. Callum Williams alongside Kindred D. St. Aubin. As you saw the teams, Saprissa, there is a sprinkling of first team players available for selection. Only Mora, Robinson and Ramirez remain after the 1-0 loss to River Plate down in Florida over the weekend. And for Minnesota United, as expected, Kindra, 11 adjustments, highlighted by the return of Francisco Calvo, the former Saprissa man, and of course the very first look at Bertrand Owundi at the heart of the back line.
Well, and I think that's a key piece here. It's a big night for a lot of these players, and Bertrand Owundi included in that. I mean, he arrived here in March before the home opener against Chicago to start training with Minnesota United. He has been looking to find his place in this club, in this team. He's been healthy, just not able to break through, but a big central defender, left-footed player that you felt with the athleticism and his size and his pace could really help this team with the depth. So can he make a mark here tonight? This isn't just about getting minutes, it's about making an impression on Adrian.
So Minnesota United 6-11-1, 5-3-2 conference in a big clash against Real Salt Lake coming up on Saturday evening here. Saprissa 26-9-9. They finished second in the regular season standings, in the Clausura standings, in 17-18 behind Edidiano. Of course, they went on to win on penalty kicks the title. They're 34th since joining Costa Rica's top flight. Well, the key thing here, Kendra, from a Minnesota United point of view, as you mentioned, it will be an opportunity for many who have struggled to find consistent minutes here today to finally show Adrian Heath what they can offer.
It's a combination of showing what you can offer.
Well, that's a handball, to say the least. Well, this will be slightly awkward, and it will be a yellow card for the goalkeeper, which understandably, in uncompetitive circumstances, Kendra, a yellow card perhaps the right decision here.
Well, it just looked like some confusion on his part as he came out to get the ball and then realized where he was on the field, that he was outside the 18-yard box. So the official giving the yellow card, as you stated. This is a friendly match, so there will be some leniency involved. And yes, the yellow card on that one, a handball early in this game, and not their normal starting goalkeeper, so maybe we'll give him a little slack with that as well.
Not Alejandro Gomez's finest moment. 29-year-old, of course, played in Bolivia earlier this year. Now he will go up against the specialties of Francisco Calvo and Harrison Heath. Players more than capable from this type of range. We've seen it in the past, particularly in training programs as well. Can Harrison Heath make the most of this opportunity here? And who he would consider to live under his father's shadow, given an opportunity here today. So it will be Harrison Heath through the wall and palmed aside by Gomez. Corner.
Well, there was about 8 bodies in that wall. Saprissa lining up, stacking them up there, and Harrison Heath just goes right through it. It's tough to tell from that angle that we can see here if it went through 2 Minnesota United players or if it went through a couple of Saprissa players there, but nonetheless puts it on frame. Might as well test the goalkeeper.
Heath on the set piece here. Goalkeeper came for it, didn't get there, and it was Bertrand Owundi of all people attacking the ball. He was more or less unmarked, and it has to, Kendra, once again go down as a very good opening for Minnesota United.
And look, a good opening and a good opportunity, but as we were just saying before, that handball outside of the box, you've got to capitalize on these situations, on these chances. If you're continuing to talk again about making your mark and trying to prove yourself on this team, work yourself into the 18. We're not talking starting 11 necessarily here, but we're talking the 18. And Bertrand Owundi's got to absolutely bury that. And there's just going to be some chances throughout this match that somebody's got to take this game really kind of by the bull by the horns and take command of it if you're trying to make your mark. But there's also a level of rust, in my opinion. Yes, you're still a professional, but a player like Bertrand Owundi is training every day, not getting minutes in a game situation. There's a different feeling, a different emotion in a game situation, and we'll also see how fitness plays a factor as well.
Minnesota United 2-2-3 in international friendlies, for those of you wondering, since 2013. And so Ramirez manoeuvres down the far side, occupied by Owundi. Saprissa manoeuvre forwards. The big Cameroonian figure away again for Minnesota United. Here's Francisco Calvo, undoubtedly an emotional evening for him. Maximiano, the Brazilian, on loan from Fluminense, running straight into trouble. Throw in now for Minnesota United. Eric Miller, who has seen some minutes on his return, several minutes against Toronto and then Houston Dynamo over the last couple of weeks. Kendra, his inclusion back into the starting 11. It'll be intriguing to see if it becomes a regularity once again over the next couple of weeks.
Well, and I think the key piece there also is just the fact that Adrian Heath again decided to go with this 3-5-2 formation even in this friendly, and how does Eric Miller figure into that 3-5-2, 5-3-2 formation going forward? So he's got to play himself back into the lineup as well. He's a very consistent, solid outside back, someone you can count on, not real flashy, not too dynamic going forward, but you know what you're going to get from him from a defensive standpoint. So in this new formation of a 3-5-2, if Adrian continues with it, how does Eric Miller get back in the fold?
Wolfsburg away for the time being.
It's not really a wing back per se, I guess is what I was trying to get at.
Eric Miller has been given many a task since turning professional in 2014 with Montreal Impact. Played at right back, left back, centre half, even played as a holding midfielder through a little stage of his career as well. He'll have some defending to do here, as will Minnesota. And the ball unable to come across, and behind for a goal kick. Another player who will be looking forward to getting some minutes today, Kendra, is Matt Lampson as well.
Yeah, and he's also coming back from an injury, so he had that starting position coming into the preseason and really took a hold of it, and then he lost it due to injury, and Bobby Shuttleworth stepped in and has been fantastic. So again, to have your 1-2 goalkeeping combination be two starting level quality goalkeepers in a Lampson and a Shuttleworth, that's massive, but he's probably really appreciating getting some minutes here tonight as well, some game action.
Martin thrusted forward and firmly dealt with by Alexander Robinson. Miller underway quickly here for France. Pangop, first start for him in Minnesota colours. Up against Medina. Last touch came off of the Costa Rican. And behind for a Minnesota corner. Pangop eager for goal number 1 in Loon's colours. It's arriving from Cameroon's Elite 1. Harrison Heath again. And in charge of the set piece. Heath with the ball in, over to the far side. Owundi able to grab a firm hold of it, and behind for a corner. And Saprissa will start up once again. Goalless after 8 minutes here at TCF Bank Stadium. Kendra, what have you seen so far?
Well, I see two teams that are really kind of struggling to find some momentum and some energy. I think the game's a little flat right now. That you have to remember, although this Minnesota United club trains together every day, this is still a new environment to play in a game-type atmosphere with this particular 11 on the field, so there's a chemistry aspect there. And Saprissa as well. This is a very kind of mixed, put-together group.
The pace of Toy causing a problem, but it's really well dealt with by Robinson. Vastly experienced player in his second Saprissa spell. 5.5 years at the club before a move to Brazil and then returning to the Costa Rican champions. There is Bustos in midfield. Medina.
There's a couple players I need to see things from tonight. One of those is Mason Toye. I think this is a chance for him not just to shine for Adrian Heath and put a stamp on the game, but also for himself to get that confidence. We've seen him. He's one of the first subs off the bench every match when they need something offensively. Abu Danladi still dealing with injury. There's been some signings, as we know, from the club at the start of the transfer window. So Mason Toye has got to make his mark on this game and get some confidence. Just bury one, finish one. Make it, doesn't have to be pretty, but I think if he gets on the board, it'll help his confidence.
Well, only day one into the transfer window, as you mentioned, Kendra, and 2 new signings for Minnesota United. Arguably much needed, a new spark needed for Minnesota United after recent form. At least what many are suggesting. Rodriguez coming in, Colombia centre forward as the club's second ever designated player, I beg your pardon. And of course, Romario Ibarra, Ecuadorian international. What are you expecting to see from these players?
Well, I'm excited to see both come in and really light a fire. Even under the existing players, I think, again, something that is lacking with the lack of depth is the competition on a daily basis, to feel that your job may be in jeopardy. That if you're not performing on a daily basis in training or in a match, that your job may be in jeopardy and someone else can come in and take your spot. So I think, again, just players that create depth, that create quality, and they're good, solid performers that are going to really contribute to this club. And you can tell by the fact that you've signed them so early in the transfer window. This is the deal. These are deals that they've been working on and trying to, find the right player, the right fit for the right price for quite some time. And we'll see. You never know how players are going to work out in MLS. It is a different league. It's a different, than what some of these players are used to. But you would think that the quality that they're going to bring, it's going to lift this Minnesota United roster right away.
It's a different task and a different ask for
absolutely
many coming in over from international waters. Angulo, 31 years of age, 11 goals in the Clausura last season. Owundi shielding off the nearest challenger. Then Cordero, 17 years of age. Big day for the young man, came through the Saprissa Academy. Interesting to see how he does today, Kendra, alongside David Ramirez, who was the club's top goal scorer in the last campaign. Always good for a youngster to get some minutes.
Well, exactly, and we've talked about that in other teams when we watch an MLS. Who can you learn from? Who is in front of you that you can really learn from? And that's a perfect example of Ramirez sitting right in front of Cordero. What can you learn from him every day in training, in every match that they play? Is he willing to learn? When you have another forward sitting in front of you or on the same roster as you that you can learn from like that, you hope they soak it all in. It doesn't always happen that way, but there's some really good examples of that even around MLS with a veteran forward, and that someone can just sit underneath him and learn and take the time to soak everything in.
Here is Gomez in goal. Alexander Robinson surveying the scene for Saprissa. To Carl Medina. Fleeting of feet inside, it's a lovely through ball. Mandy may very well have a problem. The shot was taken early. And away in behind for a goal kick. The question will be asked as to why another touch wasn't taken then, Kendra, but arguably the pressure and the presence of Carter Mandy played its part.
When he struggled there, he was just a step slow to get back to the ball there and track back. For a second, I wasn't sure if Owundi was going to get to it or Carter Manley, but this is another big game for Carter Manley to step up and really sharpen his game skills, because we see him in training every day. I think we've seen him in a couple scrimmages. He stepped onto the field early in the MLS season, and he's a bit rusty right now, and it's tough for some of these guys when they don't have a U.S. affiliate readily available to go and play with. You can tell that they struggle a bit at times to really find their form, and I think when Wyatt Almsberg had come back from his couple stints with Tulsa, you could see he stepped right back into training with a different sense of confidence about him. So it'd be nice if some of the other players could also find a place to get some game minutes in USL.
A man who is firmly familiar with getting game minutes in USL on the ball now, Colin Martin, after 4 years with DC United, spent at least 3 different spells with the Richmond Kickers. Here's Wyatt Almsberg. As you mentioned, played 4 games with Tulsa Roughnecks over the course of the last 6 weeks or so. Here's Francisco Calvo. 13 goals in 71 appearances for Saprissa. Won a league title with them as well before coming to Minnesota United.
And he had 13 goals for Saprissa, so you know that he wants to get in on the attack, and we see him do it quite often with Minnesota United as well. And I think if they continue in this 3-5-2 system where he has a little bit more space as a left center back, he may get in on the attack more often. Of course, a lot of those goals come on set pieces as well.
Angulo dispossessed. France Pangop. Now for Harrison Heath. Olmsberg. Bertrand Owundi. Delicate ball over the top here for Mason Toye to chase. And straight away he was intervened. Last touch coming off of the youngster and behind for a Saprissa goal kick. Minnesota United with just 1 win in their last 5 in Major League Soccer. 2 wins in their last 5 home games, and a 1-1 draw with Sporting Kansas City also squeezed in there. Some defending to do now for the home side. Angulo. Lash one towards goal, and it's high and wide. Chance beckons for Saprissa.
And right away the conversation between Calvo and Owundi, and I think some of that communication with Calvo is just trying to communicate with Owundi on when he needs to step to the ball. When someone is coming down, right down the middle of the field, right down the gut, and your midfielders are pushed higher up the field, Owundi's got to step to that ball. Instead it was Calvo with the block.
11 goals for Marvin Angulo last season. 41 appearances throughout the Clausura and Apertura campaigns. Glance forward by Toy. Pan got beaten to it in mid-flight by Robinson. Heath. Calvo. Last touch. Coming off of Julian Cordero. On defensive duties, the centre forward, and behind for a Minnesota United corner. Benjamin Heath watching on. He'll certainly want to get something out of this game. Wilson Heath, again, the man put in charge of set-piece responsibilities. Of options towards the back post he goes, and Pangop just unable to grab a firm hold of it, and behind for a Saprissa goal kick. 0-0.
Just too much on that one from Harrison. He gives a hand up after the one. Yes, Pangop was backpedaling trying to keep that one in play, but Harrison Heath does too much on it as it goes out over the end line, the far side.
There's no doubt about it. It is a very busy stage for Minnesota United. It got awkward there for Gomez, didn't it? Under pressure from Toy. Miller back in. Calmed down by Haddon. Owundi awkward, and this now is David Ramirez who scores. Now we're used to seeing a certain type of Ramirez scoring goals in these parts. This time it's David Ramirez. The top goal scorer last season for Saprissa now gets himself off the mark here in the Twin Cities.
Well, and that's just a perfect example of a miscue in the back. At first I was about to say Bertrand Owundi comes and slides over and covers for Calvo nicely because Calvo was going to get beat. He was just a step behind Ramirez, but instead he misplays it with the left foot, trying to find Lamson, his goalkeeper. Doesn't get enough on it. And Ramirez is one of those players, 24 for Saprissa. He's not going to make a mistake on that one. Wide open goal. Does well to pressure the ball and stay with it. The first time Saprissa's really nearly been in the offensive third of the field, and they finish.
There is Vladimir Quesada. 412 appearances for Saprissa as a player. So David Ramirez with the goal to separate the two sides just short of 20 minutes. Ramirez has been on the cusp of the Costa Rican squad for several years now. As we mentioned earlier on, 17 goals last season, was the top goal scorer for Saprissa last year. Calvo turning into trouble. Really frustrated. We said earlier on, Kindra, it is obviously an exhibition, a friendly game here. The results really shouldn't matter too much, but try saying that to someone like Francisco Calvo going up against his former club.
Exactly, and he's always playing with pride, and this game in particular, he's just coming back with Minnesota United.
Here's Maximiano. Delaying the pass. In towards Mason Toy, trying to flick it into the path of Pangop. Easily into the grasp of Alejandro Gomez.
There's something to be said about playing your former club. We see it happen a lot in MLS, but I think for Francisco Calvo making the move from Saprissa to come here to Minnesota United, it's an even different task as far as pride is concerned. Just coming back from the World Cup. By the way, did you watch that game today? Did you see any of the World Cup today?
I'd rather not talk about it today. The national team, of course, bowing out in the semi-final stage. What I will say, Kendra, is that, yes, obviously disappointed, as are many English men and women around the world, but it was a tremendous tournament. Nobody ever thought England would get anywhere near that stage, particularly after going to penalty kicks against Colombia in the round of 16 as well. But the one thing which I will say, Kendra, is I have really enjoyed this World Cup. At least in my lifetime, I can't remember a better one.
I'm right there with you. This World Cup has been... It's got to be the best in my lifetime, and I've heard people much older than me say the same. Is if you didn't like soccer before, I'm sure you'll like it now, because this World Cup has been highly entertaining and so much fun to watch. And you look at some of the superstars that people would resonate with, a Messi or Ronaldo, out early in the tournament. Yeah, out early in the tournament, and people still getting the excitement, getting their money's worth in this World Cup.
So all eyes on Sunday. Croatia against France in the World Cup final. The world will be watching, no doubt. Well, here, international significance of a different flavour. Saprissa leading Minnesota United by a goal to nil, courtesy of David Ramirez's opening strike. Here's Omsberg. Flicked inside by Pangop and not picked up by Martin. Long ball forward here, Ramirez is offside. Lovely character, isn't he, David Ramirez? Looks to toe the line, and there's a boatload of pace behind him. Interesting thing about playing teams like this as well, Kendra, out of the 52 Costa Ricans to play in MLS over the years, 15 have come directly from Saprissa. Others tend to come from the likes of Alajuelense and Herediano, but a load of them have come from this particular franchise, so we could very well see a future MLS player here.
Absolutely, and I think because this roster is a little bit different, you're getting a lot of the younger players here today.
Pangop! That's the world of goods! Cameroonian conundrum, able to find the far corner, and after 23 minutes, it's Minnesota United 1, Saprissa 1.
And look, what I love about this finish is you see the little bit of technical ability from Panga. He's got two players right in front of him. He does a little bit of a step over, and then he doesn't try to blast it. He uses the inside of the right foot to find the corner on the far post. A little bit of a shimmy there, a little bit of a shoulder dip with a step over at the same time. And easily he could have tried to make an impression and just blast that one home. But instead he passes it into the corner. He sees the keeper, Gomez, well off of his line, and puts that away for his first goal in Minnesota United colors. Maybe that'll help him out with his confidence, because I think he's another one of those players that has really struggled with his confidence since joining Minnesota United, lacking in minutes. Some days in training he looks like he'd light the world on fire with his ability and his pace, and then other days you're wondering where he went and what happened. So maybe this will help. Confidence can do a lot for a player.
Bertrand Owundi is spotted by assistant manager Ian Fuller during a off-season scouting trip to Africa and to Cameroon in particular. There is talent out there to be found. He's taking his time to settle in.
Get off him!
6 appearances for Minnesota United, all off the bench, and now in his first start he scores for Adrian Heath's men. And it's been a rather two-faced 25 minutes for the Cameroonians. Owundi with the mistake that led to the Saprissa goal, and Pangop with the goal to square things here. Here's Miller. We'll find Pangop, who tried to return it. Maximiano wriggling through. Fortuitously, he's able to find Miller. Miller's ball into the far post. Oh, shielded by Mora. Touched inside. Here's Maximiano into the path of Carter Manley. The idea was there, the delivery or run, not so much.
And that's a little bit of what you're going to see throughout the match. It's just not quite being on the same page. I mean, we see it happen with the full team sometimes as well, but in particular with these guys, just not on the same page. Who's making the run? Carter Manley had the right idea there. Used Pangoff's speed to get in behind. Just wasn't making that run this time.
Saprissa unable to work their way down the left-hand side. They will earn a throw, though. Chavez the man to take it. Pangop pestering. Robinson. A late challenge from Martin. Let's offer his apologies. Obvious free kick given in favour of Saprissa. Here's Haddon. Giving the ball away, and now a chance for Mason Toy to stretch the legs. Toy twisting and turning and teasing, unable to pick out a fellow Minnesotan body.
And maybe just one too many step overs on that one. He was trying to hold the ball initially, waiting for the run, for the supporting run to come in behind, for numbers in the box, and that last step over. And he passes it behind Eric Miller, who makes that run all the way from that left wing back position. Fortunately, Saprissa didn't transition quick and go out the other way with all those numbers like an Eric Miller up inside the 18.
What have we made once again, Kindra? I know it is an exhibition game, but is it telling that Adrian Heath has once again stuck with this 5-3-2 formation, because he's a traditionalist and more often than not goes with a 4-2-3-1, but the last couple of games we've seen this formation. What does that say moving forward? I'm
really surprised that he stuck with it, and I think when we saw it in training yesterday, we were a bit surprised as well, but I think he feels the personnel that they have available right now with what they have and what they want to try to accomplish, that 5-3-2 formation fits them and what they need right now. The three center backs, I think, have proved really beneficial. Not only that, but also Colin Warner sitting in as a true kind of holding midfielder has helped on the attack.
Here goes Mason Toy! Right. Well, he did just about everything right, apart from the finish.
And I feel like we've seen that before from him, and that's just part of that 19-year-old. He's still trying to get his feet under him. He has some great moves to beat the player. He's got the speed. That's a tough angle for him to try to finish. He gets it to the outside there, beats the player, and Gomez does well to come off his line as well to create a very tough angle for Mason Toy to put that one away. But yes, does everything right, doesn't get the finish right. But a good opportunity created by Mason Toy.
You are seeing some of our Twitter obligations at the moment. There is a hydration break at the moment, which is good to see. Players needing to intake fluids. What have you made of what we've seen so far then, Kim? Just over 30 minutes played.
Well, I think it's a combination with Minnesota United right now as far as what they're trying to accomplish in this match. Adrian Heath wanted to see what players could do. Also, it's a hyped up training session for some of these guys to get some minutes, some quality minutes. But also, can they figure out how to play together? Can they come together? It reminds me a lot of a tryout where you have individuals trying to prove themselves and they forget you're better off playing as a team and not trying to do too much as an individual when you're trying to impress the coach. So can they find a way to combine, play together, move the ball up the field, settle down a little bit? I think Owundi's mistake, hopefully he's forgotten about it. I know he's trying to impress, and he's got a lot of people barking in his ear, Calvo included, trying to direct him and help him out in that position. So for me, I felt like that last 15 minutes looked much better for Minnesota United. Calmed down a little bit, the game plan, you saw the formation working and trying to get forward and create more opportunities on the attack.
Well, if you are joining us late, it is 1-1 between Minnesota United and Saprissa. The Costa Rican champions took the lead just in the 19th minute through David Ramirez after a mistake at the back by Bertrand Owundi. So sooner rather than later, Minnesota United were back on level terms after good work in midfield. France Pangop managed to squeeze in his first goal in Minnesota United colours.
When you're at training every day, is there one person in particular that you see out here tonight that you feel like could really take advantage of this opportunity and accomplish something and really leave an impression on Adrian, knowing some of the positions that are needed for depth and where Adrian needs some players to step up?
I think right now with how Adrian Heath views his team, you hit on the point earlier on about Mason Toye. Now we all know that with just 4 goals between the 3 centre forwards Minnesota United have this season, there is an opportunity. And I say this with all due respect to Christian Ramirez, but I believe in most other teams in Major League Soccer, if not around the world, I think with the form that Ramirez has been in, he wouldn't have seen the field as much as he has at the moment. Now obviously with Angelo Rodriguez coming in, that now is a different question. But for me, a big evening for Mason Toye.
I agree 100%. And I think that goes back also to Abu Danladi's injury. The start of the season, Abu Danladi got the nod in the first game. He goes down with injury. Christian Ramirez has a chance to step into that starting role. Hasn't done quite enough with it. And you're right, I think because all you have sitting underneath him right now is a rookie in Mason Toye, who's still trying to learn the game.
Might be called into action here. It's Maximiano. He just got caught underneath him, and Saprissa scramble away.
And Rodriguez coming in, creating more competition. And that's what you want. Adrian Heath has preached that every day since day one. There is nothing better than competition and guys feeling like they make the 11. They've got to fight and claw and scrap for their position, their starting position every game, every day at training.
Interesting thing I noticed during the hydration break there as well, Kendra, was Adrian Heath talking specifically to all 3 centre-backs. It's not exactly been a fleeting obligation so far. What have we made of what they've done so far?
Well, I think, again, it goes back to the system. I mean, first of all, you've got Bertrand Owundi, who's not played in a single minute this entire season for Minnesota United. You've got Almsberg, who's a rookie. And you've got Calvo, who's just returning for the World Cup. So I think the communication factor is going to be lacking with those 3. You've got Calvo, who's the most communicative, and he's on the left side. You've got Owundi, who doesn't speak a whole ton of English, and he's trying to find his way. And you've got Almsberg, who's a rookie. And then you've got Lamson in the back shouting all sorts of orders, I'm sure, trying to organize them. So to me, communication is going to be the key piece for those 3 center backs going forward. So far, I think they've done all right. Owundi clearly made a mistake, but other than that, I think they've looked pretty good in their shape and covering for each other.
Toye shielding from Robinson. Maximiano in the thick of things as well for Minnesota. Purposeful ball forward for Pangop. Heath skipped by easily. Here comes Saprissa. It's a stern challenge from Owundi. Challenge that I'm sure will do his confidence no harm at all, Kendra.
That was a great tackle, a timely tackle. He stuck his foot in just at the right time, got all ball right outside the 18.
The man who doesn't lack confidence is Mason Toye with a lovely pass in towards Pangop. An opportunity here, and Pangop is thwarted. Combination of Medina and Robinson playing their part for Saprissa. Here now is Eric Miller, the boy from Woodbury, just down the road here in Minnesota. Calvo.
He's good for a big switch every now and then. We saw that nice little ball he played to Miguel Ibarra for a goal against Toronto FC. He can pick out some good switches when he pings that ball and finds that space. If you do it quick enough, you can really catch the defense off guard.
Certainly a welcome return to Major League Soccer for Calvo, wasn't it? And he can assist for the goal for Miguel Ibarra, the second of the afternoon, in that 4-3 win for Minnesota over Toronto a week ago. To be honest though, Kindred, it was an afternoon that the headlines were clearly stolen by Darwin Quintero.
I don't know how many more times I can retweet the hat trick. I mean, there's a reason why he was MLS Player of the Week, right? I mean, that was, if not the most amazing hat trick I've ever seen in my lifetime live, maybe I've ever seen, period, where all three goals were so ridiculous in the technical ability and the precision it took to accomplish those. But what I loved after the game were his quotes that early on in that match, just a few minutes in, he was already studying the goalkeeper and the positioning and trying to read what he liked to do when he was coming off his line, how quickly, how many steps is he taking. That's a goal scorer. That is a pure goal scorer. And what a player to really recognize that and study that early in the match. Those were not luck, those goals.
It'll be an afternoon I'm sure Clint Irwin will want to swiftly push aside as quickly as possible. Martinez in midfield. Chavez back into the path of Alejandro Gomez. All thrusted forward here, and the big presence of Owundi playing its part. Here's Heath. Into the feet of Toy. Skipping through several in midfield. Now then, well, he took a tumble. He had been slightly theatrical as he went down, but nevertheless it will be a free kick for Minnesota. And a yellow card given to Medina.
Well, and he's fortunate that he won the ball back. Goes for the Meg and gets it. Medina, which may be why Medina committed the foul. I don't think anybody likes to be megged in the run of play. But Toy was lucky that he got the ball back, because just prior to that, he did something similar. Tried to maybe beat one too many players, went for the Meg in midfield. The ball got deflected, falls back to his feet. So again, a lot of this I still think is just a rookie. It's a young player learning in this league. And those kind of things are going to fall about 1 time out of 10 that you find success on those. Unless you're Darwin Quintero. He seems to be able to pick out those spots. We saw it happen to Michael Bradley twice in that Toronto game.
Heath's ball in. Just a little too much behind it. Some shake of the fist from Harrison Heath would suggest an element of frustration in the delivery. Owundi pestering too much for the referee's liking. David Ramirez, the man taken down. His goal that gave Saprissa the lead. David Ramirez. Soon after, France Pang up with the goal for Minnesota. So a free kick now for Saprissa. Can the Costa Rica champions conjure up here? High hanging ball, it's begging to be hit. And it was, awkwardly. A late challenge on Olmsberg on the edge of the Loons penalty area. And a free kick to the home side. As we were saying a little earlier on, Kendra, it is a busy period for Minnesota United as the ball was played in there by Saprissa. Obviously a foul in favour of the Loons. 3 games in 9 days to follow after this. The only positive, all of them at home.
All of them at home, and I think that Minnesota is finally starting to really get their groove at home at TCF Bank Stadium. Adrian Heath has been talking about it for quite some time, creating a fortress here. Now the dilemma is, why do you play so poorly on the road? Yes, the next 3 at home. You have a good stretch here to really get some points, gain some points, get back in that Western Conference playoff picture. But you're still going to have to figure out how you get points on the road. And I think after that Houston game, we were all left scratching our head, because you see that team that played Toronto FC at home on the Wednesday, and then you go on the road and you play Houston the way you did on that weekend. And if you're Adrian Heath, you got to be driving yourself crazy trying to figure out which team is going to show up that night.
This cued pass from Harrison Heath. Here's Ramirez. Picks out Angulo. Haddon. Down the line goes Saprissa. Ball across to the edge and easily repelled by Wyatt Ormsberg. Touch from Toy. Represent another opening for the away side. Had it not have been for the positioning of Carter Manley, Minnesota may very well have been in trouble there, Kendra.
Well done by Manley to sit just inside his mark on the outside.
So we are hearing 3 minutes of added time at the end of this first half.
And not only was Manley in a good position, but people underestimate, I think, how good and important a clean first touch is. He settled that really nicely. The ball came right to his foot, but one touch, he found a teammate, he found Ormsberg to play it cleanly so they could keep the ball, possess it, and then go back out the other way. So not just was his positioning good, but just something as simple as having a clean first touch and keeping possession once you win it.
Here's Medina. Bustos in midfield. 9th season at Saprissa. Bustos over 130 league appearances with the Costa Rican champions. Here he is again. Spread out to the far side and easily dealt with and intervened by Eric Miller. And now Colin Martin. Pangop, the goal scorer for Minnesota. Well read by Robinson. Oh, they put a foot wrong here this evening.
And making the overlapping run. Look at that effort out of the back.
Just behind Ramirez, the pass. Here's Marvin Angulo. Ex-Herediano midfielder. Also spent 2 seasons at the now defunct Melbourne Victory in the Australian A-League. Operating as Melbourne City these days. Owundi. Awkward for Manley.
The fourth official has indicated there will be a minimum of 3 minutes of stoppage time in the first half.
Martinez into Haddon. Medina. And Alexander Robinson again. Martinez. It's been an intriguing 45 minutes here, Kendra, just for the first 15 minutes or so, a large portion of the opening of the game. It seemed as though Saprissa were in full control before Minnesota United got themselves back on level terms through France Pangop. What have you made of what you've seen so far?
I think just a few miscues again with Minnesota United. They've tried to combine and go forward, be patient through the midfield and around the back, but they're lacking that pass, that dangerous pass into that final third. So whether it's trying to play Mason Toy and he's supposed to hold the ball up, or he's trying to drop it back to someone underneath him. So I feel like in the midfield and around the back, just like we're seeing here, patient possession, but then that next pass that they're trying to find to go forward and break the Saprissa back line and midfield down is lacking right now.
Heath involved. And here's France Pangop! And wide of the right-hand post. The eyebrows were raised.
Well, nobody stepped to the ball. You had Harrison Heath making a run to split the defender there. He took his defender with him. And so France Pangop, look at Harrison Heath. He makes that run. The defender goes with him just a step. It opens up an opportunity for France Pangop to strike that one. He just mishits it.
And a severe pressure from Toy. So there we have the half-time whistle. It's been an absorbing opening 45 minutes. As we said a little earlier on, Saprissa perhaps having the better of the opening stages. They took the lead after 19 minutes through David Ramirez, their top goal scorer from last season. And before we knew it, Minnesota United were back on level terms after good work in midfield. France Pangop squared things up, doing ever so well inside the penalty area. At half-time, it's Saprissa 1, Minnesota United 1.
Here comes Darwin Quintero. How about it? How about it? A blistering goal. And Darwin Quintero fires the Lions back into the realm of relevancy here. They lead against the champions LA. Quintero. Quintero, absolutely wonderful! Extraordinary! And it's 3 to Minnesota. Doing it so well, and they get back to Minnesota. Then we'll play another opening here for the Blues. Quintero! Hat-trick! Hysteria! It's his day! It's his moment! His hat-trick! On his stomping ground! And your very own Darwin Quintero was voted the Alcatel Major League Soccer Player of the Week by the North American Soccer Reporters for the 19th week of the 2018 MLS season. After scoring the first hat-trick in club history to lift the Blues over the defending champions this past Wednesday. Let's hear it one more time for Darwin Quintero.
Well, it's not going to be the U.S., I can tell you that. Brazil will win the World Cup. Brazil. Brazil. I think Brazil will win the World Cup.
For me, I got Brazil. I got the winner.
France will win the World Cup.
You say France.
France will win the World Cup.
France. Oh, you win the World Cup, I think so.
France. Probably, or Switzerland. World Cup winners, England.
I'm hoping that Belgium wins the World Cup this summer.
I'll listen to my dad and say Colombia.
And the champion this year?
Costa Rica. I'll give it to Argentina.
During the World Cup, where Minnesota United faces Real Salt Lake on Saturday, July 14th at 7 p.m. Visit MNUFC.com. Fans, join us on Saturday, July 14th, when your Loons take on Real Salt Lake here at TCF Bank Stadium, presented by the Minnesota Corn Growers Association. Kickoff is at 7 p.m. Visit MNUFC.com for more information. We would like to welcome tonight's man of the match, Andrew Longan. This is Andrew's second year as a season ticket holder. His favorite club moment was Darwin Quintero's hat-trick last week. Each goal was better than the last. Thank you for being a season ticket holder, Andrew. SeatGeek is the official fan-to-fan ticket marketplace of Minnesota United. SeatGeek makes buying, selling, and sharing tickets to all of our home games easy. SeatGeek is also fun to say. Download the SeatGeek app now. SeatGeek and have a nice SeatGeek.
MLS Soccer Sunday, it's on. LAFC keeps it moving in their standout first season as Rose City rides into the City of Angels. Will LAFC keep climbing? Or will the Timbers Army shut it down? Here we go. It's time for our soccer. Sunday, it's LAFC versus Portland Timbers at 6 Eastern on ESPN.
The International Champions Cup is bringing two of the world's most iconic soccer clubs to Minnesota this summer, as the English Premier League's Tottenham Hotspur face off against Italian powerhouse AC Milan. July 31st at US Bank Stadium.
MNUFC has announced the dates for its elite development camp. This camp is designed to maximize the soccer experience for 10 to 18-year-old players and meet the development demands of the key technical and tactical elements of the game. Players will develop a true passion for soccer and challenge themselves each day in a fun, educational, and competitive environment. For more information, visit our website at mnufc.com/academy. Fans, take a look at some of the most recent stadium construction updates in tonight's countdown to Allianz Field. Be among the first to get on the waiting list for Allianz Field in 2019. Visit Allianz Field headquarters in the West Plaza to find out how to join. about each and every one of them that got these three children. They call me Peter West, gold from the gold to the gold to the mice gold bones. Freezing in that Minnesota snow, keeping up the winter with the flow. Being told to break breakers, presented by the tunes, and sponsored by the pop singers. My act, my scene, my play, my stage, my rhyme, my way, all day, all style, all cut, cat cut, no fresh, no clean, all fresh, it's me, exclusive to move things with clean shoes, whatever be who's to do, you need to any move with ease. Ravish the rule, ravish the rule, raise, ravish the rules, ain't able to come at my own key. Promise is still better than blessed, promise is stress. Exactly what you do. Behind the lies, you can't strive, but they will see. Behind your mind, you can't strive, but they will lay you down.
Good evening and welcome back to TCF Bank Stadium for an exhibition game here between Saprissa and Minnesota United. Two adjustments made at half-time for the Costa Rican champions, and Adrian Chavez has gone off. Alejandro Cabral, the Argentine defender, now comes on, and David Ramirez, the goal scorer for Saprissa, has gone off. Randy Tireno comes on, the 22-year-old, 26 league appearances over the last two seasons, and just one goal in the last campaign. We're looking to add to that number here today. So there's confirmation of the substitution. Alejandro Cabral coming on, the Argentine, 24 years of age, joined just 11 days ago from Flandria in the Argentine second tier. Really looking to make the most of his opportunity and hope to impress Vladimir Quesada during this United States tour. So something a little different now. Callum Williams alongside Amos McGee. Amos, you're obviously in charge and certainly a humongous part of the growth of this football club and bringing in players. Two new loons brought in on day one of the transfer window. I know you're busy and looking elsewhere for more additions as well, but for those that are unaware, tell us about the two new additions and what we can expect.
Well, we're very excited about both of them. Both of them we've seen on a bunch of occasions, and both of them are players that we feel fit the way we continue to want to build this group. We added a center forward, a guy named Angelo Rodriguez, who came off of a championship-winning season for Deportes Tolima in Colombia. So he's a big center forward, strong, mobile, fast, presses, holds the ball up well, gets on the end of things. And I think he's a different player than what we have. And I think he can complement Christian. I think he can play center forward by himself. I think he can play in a bunch of different ways, but it gives us another option. We felt like we needed something like that to help us through the rigors of an MLS season. So we're excited about him. We didn't think we were going to be able to figure it out based on the effect he had and the way that they won the championship, and that tends to inflate prices at times when players and teams win championships. So we're pleased about that. And then we also added a young 23-year-old Ecuadorian winger, a guy named Romario Ibarra from Católica in Ecuador. And this is a kid that just got into the Ecuadorian national team, scored 2 goals in his 2 games. Pretty good strike rate at the national team level. Both World Cup qualifying games against 2 pretty impressive teams in Chile and Argentina. But more than that, we liked his explosion, we liked his athleticism, we liked the way he works, and we think that he fits with players that we have, with Darwin, with now with Angela, with Christian, with Miguel. So we think that it's a good option for us to have.
Maximiliano will lash one towards goal. Well, the goalkeeper scrambling for a moment or two, will go behind for a goal kick, and good build-up play from Minnesota United. In the end, their efforts go unrewarded. Amos, you were telling us a little bit about Romario Ibarra.
Yeah, so we think he's going to come in and provide more depth and more pace and more athleticism to our team, but he's a soccer player too. So again, his brother made the move a couple years before him to Club America, and he's done really well in Mexico. So we have high hopes for Romario, and we're very pleased to have both of them.
A long punt forwards. If you are joining us late, both goals coming in the opening 45 from David Ramirez and then from France Pangop. And we were saying as well, Amos, during the opening 45 minutes, a goal for Cameroon winger France Pangop. It's certainly going to do his confidence the world of good.
Yeah, he's shown us glimpses. Unfortunately, he hasn't been able to burst into the starting lineup. Hasn't been able to get much rhythm. He's fits and starts as a late substitute when we're chasing a goal, and a lot of times that can be a difficult scenario for a young attacking player. So I'm very pleased for him. I know he puts the work in. We think he's got some real ability. He he's able to get a goal and look lively beyond that. It wasn't just the goal. He's running at players. Here we see him on the ball, brimming with confidence and looking to run and combine, and look at it. That's a player that's got some confidence and some excitement, and we hope that one of the things you hope for these games is that it builds into confidence and kickstart some guys' seasons. We hope that happens with France.
And one win in the last 5 in Major League Soccer for Minnesota United, Amos, but it was safe to say it was an eyebrow-raising victory, 4-3 over Toronto FC. Undoubtedly, the headlines falling to Darwin Quintero with, I think, the best hat-trick I've ever seen in Major League Soccer.
I don't know that I've seen many better ones in soccer, period. 3 outside the 18, all of them chipped. One with the outside of the foot, which technically is very, very difficult to do, to put that touch on it. The movement, the combination play. Miguel had a great goal, sandwiched in between 2 of Darwin's. It was a great performance from us. It would have been nice if we had locked it down and not given up the 2 late goals with, some real concentration issues. But, that's a little bit of encapsulates some of our issues right now, is that we do lose concentration defensively in bad times, and that's something if we're going to make the playoffs and we're going to become the team that we think we could become, that has to change.
Manley's ball into the path of Mason Toye. Well, he had every right to go for it. Goalkeeper was able and alert, diving at the feet of young Mason Toye, player who's attracted a lot of interest and attention over the last couple of weeks, it's safe to say, Amos. Mason Toye, someone who tried to do just about everything he could when given the opportunity against Vancouver several months ago. Now waits in the wings for another opportunity. What have you made of him? Let's bear in mind only 19 years of age.
Well, yeah, listen, 19, so is Mbappe. So, let's take some perspective. The game now, at 19 worldwide, that's a young player, but that isn't a player that comes with, it doesn't mean you don't have expectations just because they're 19. We believe in Mason. We think Mason's mentality, we think physically, we think technically, we think all of those pieces, he just needs time and experience. And because of injuries, because of the position he plays, we haven't been able to get him consistent minutes either. And that's another thing that bringing Angelo Rodriguez in means that if need be, we can push Mason out on loan and get him 90 minutes in a USL game. We can get him into a real rhythm where he's battling to try to win a game from minute 1 to minute 95. So we're pleased about that as well.
I'm intrigued to get your opinion on this as well, Amos. Being in the position that you are, you've done it for many a different team in Major League Soccer at the very highest level. How do you prefer it? Drafting someone like Mason Toye, only 19 years of age after 1 season in college. We see so many players drafted at the age of 22, 23. Sometimes people are critical of that in the world of US soccer. What do you make of that?
Well, I think players mature at different times. I think, American players, based on the development system that we've had here over the past 20, 30 years, where college played such a prominent role in the development of players, it was a necessity. And now it's becoming less of a necessity based on the advancement of academies, particularly academies associated with MLS teams and some USL teams. So I think, it's tough to argue with Julian Gressel, the rookie of the year last year, who came, couldn't make it in from a Bundesliga academy up to a first team, decides he wants to take a different developmental path, comes to Syracuse, does very, very well in the collegiate and NCAA game, and Atlanta drafts him at 23, 24. He's a mature kid. He fit right into a team of basically superstars, MLS superstars certainly, and has done really well. So, I think you look at each player, each situation differently, and if you can get a player like Julian Gressel, you can get a player like Mason Toye, 24 and 19. I don't think it matters. You want to get good players, and you want to continue to build your team with an idea that there's going to be some succession planning as you do it. There's going to be players waiting in the wings, and we think Anabu Dinladi and Mason Toye, we have some attacking players waiting in the wings that we have to continue to develop. We expect that we will, and we expect that they're going to chip in along the way until we move somebody else out, and then they get their chance to start full time.
We'll get your thoughts on one last thing in a moment or two, Amos. In the meantime, though, some defensive work needed from Minnesota United. The back line undoubtedly will be tested.
Yellow card
Angulo.
issued to Minnesota United's number 27, Bertrand.
Plenty of options to aim for here. In swinging ball in, headed up, not away. An opportunity for Saprissa. And the header goes wide of the intended target. The offside flag raised regardless. And the chance goes beckoning for Saprissa. Now the question now I have for you, Amos, before we let you go. It's a big 9 days moving forward for Minnesota United. Home games coming up against Real Salt Lake, New England Revolution and LAFC. First of all, when can we expect the new players to be ready and involved? Secondly, what are you hoping for from this particular period moving forwards?
Well, I'm hoping for 9 points. I think our team is very, very capable of doing it. I think we've played well at home. We've missed some opportunities to get some points. I think, but for the game against Houston, which was a step backward, the group has made some real strides forward over the last month and a half. The game against Dallas, I thought, was actually one of our better games. I thought we were dominant possession. I thought we were pretty locked in defensively. I thought we were dynamic in how we tried to break them down. We couldn't inevitably break them down, and we gave up a bad goal on a set piece. So that was disappointing. But I think we're in a position right now where we have a sense of playing with some confidence. We have a sense that we can compete against some of the best teams and beat some of the best teams, particularly here at home. And I'd like us to do that over the next couple games. Salt Lake is the first one. They're a team that I think we have to jump over in the standings if we're going to get into the playoffs. They've done pretty well. I think they're a team like us, but I think they're a little ahead of us in having found some rhythm and identity. So it's a game that we got to start off and get 3 points here.
So Amos, it's 3:40 a.m. in Russia, in Moscow for the moment, and you've had a very special message from one of our minority owners, Ben Grossman, who is very quick to tell me he's delighted you've come on as the ball is lashed across and scrambled away.
Great stuff by Mason again. Good numbers in the box. The 3 players in the box, and Eric Miller, Maxi, and Franz. It's good to see guys hungry to score goals here. So what has Ben?
So as I was saying, 3:40 a.m. At least when I got the message from Ben Grossman, one of our minority owners at Minnesota United, saying he was delighted that you've come on because he now has something to put him to sleep. So with that, thank you very much.
Wait, no. You can't. He does not get the last word because he is in Moscow at 3:40 a.m. So either he's up early, which there's no game tomorrow. There's maybe Fox TV meeting to go over the third place game of the final, maybe. Or he's just getting in from a night of carousing, which is very unprofessional. Frankly, I'm disappointed in him. That's the final word. Bye-bye.
Quite frankly, nobody would like to speculate. Welcome back, Kindred St. Aubin. That was something very different.
Well, I appreciate him coming on because he was kind of just waltzing down the hallway, and I thought, hey, what a good opportunity for us to get him on to kind of lend some insight and not listen to me ramble and actually give us some insight on some of these players and, of course, the ones we've signed as well. So.
And for those wondering as well, we will be joined in the booth by Manny Lagos on Fox Sports North on Saturday when Minnesota United host Real Salt Lake. Really looking forward to that game. Big one for Minnesota United, who at the moment are drawing 1-1 with Saprissa. David Ramirez with the goal inside the opening 20 minutes. It was quickly cancelled out by France Pangop's first goal in Minnesotan colours. Here comes Saprissa, and a chance to manoeuvre forwards. Over to the left-hand side, Mora to the edge. And Lampson thumping away. And whilst Amos has been with us and joined me on the call, you've had a chance to dissect. What have you seen so far in the second half?
Well, I still think, looking at the halftime stats, I know possession can be some of the most worthless stats out there because possession can be misleading. Saprissa at 60 and Minnesota at 40 in the first half. I really felt like the purposeful possession was in Minnesota's favor, and I think already here in the second half we're seeing much the same. They feel like they've got their wits about them. They know what they want to do formation-wise, system-wise. The same group. No changes were made to the starting 11 for Minnesota United. Gives them a chance to come back out with some confidence here and start the second half. Now, they haven't scored a goal, but Amos just said they've got numbers in the box. They're pushing forward. They're creating some more opportunities. So I think it looks good in Minnesota compared to the first half and how that got underway.
Wasn't able to properly tell us when the two players would be available, would he? Skip that question.
But it's so crazy. Even us, working for the club, you're kind of always clamoring for information, but so much of it I think is just purely up in the air from a standpoint of visas and getting players over here, and then they have to, pass their normal physicals and go through all that jazz. So, would we like to say they hop off the plane and show up at the field? That'd be great, but unfortunately, it doesn't work that way.
Ball is fizzed in, straight into the grasp of Matt Lampson.
Either way, I think ultimately what Amos said is what we had been harping on in the first half. This creates depth, it creates competition, it creates options, and I think that's really what Adrian Heath needs at this point for this club to move forward and be as successful as we think it can be and is capable of being.
And here's Maximiano. Off the back of this, as we mentioned earlier on, Saprissa losing 1-0 to River Plate down in Kissimmee, Florida. Prior to that, they lost by 2-0 at Columbus Crew as well. And we are hearing that Francisco Calvo's evening may very well be ending prematurely. Alexi Gomez, the man to come in. Miguel Ibarra will also be entering the fray for Eric Miller. Here's Olmsberg. Maximiano, cleverly manoeuvred by Mason Toy. And he's able to wriggle away. Here's Mason Toy. And at the near post is Eric Miller, of all people. Goalkeeper Gomez not beaten this time.
I will have to say this, Eric Miller made the run that everybody always knows at practice. You better make that run, otherwise Adrian Heath is going to be all over you. The near post run, trying to get in front of the keeper, making the deflection there.
Also checking in for Minnesota United, number 32, Alexi Gomez.
So a flickering of first-team players now entering the fray. Alexi Gomez and Miguel Ibarra both coming in for Eric Miller and Francisco Calvo. For Francisco Calvo to get just over an hour under his belt. We said earlier on, didn't we, Kendra, that he's just coming back off of the World Cup. He's been in and out of the team due to yellow card accumulation. Good for him to get a solid hour under his belt here today.
He needed these minutes. He needed match minutes because even in the World Cup, he didn't play much in the second match, didn't play at all in the final match. Then you're traveling, a lot going back and forth, played really well in that Toronto FC match, and as you mentioned, that yellow card accumulation. So he needed these minutes here tonight. This is a good performance by him to get out there and run around a little bit. And now with Miguel Ibarra and Alexi Gomez, you're seeing more true to form wingbacks. the players that are going to get up and down and use their offensive firepower, as opposed to, in my opinion, an Eric Miller or even a Francisco Cabo who's going to stay home defensively just a little bit more. So I think we'll see what kind of life Miguel Ibarra and Alexi Gomez bring into this second half in the 63rd minute.
We'll get to Gomez a little later on, but Miguel Ibarra, 3 goals, 4 assists throughout the entirety of last season. Already 4 goals and 5 assists in half the amount of games. What's been the difference?
Confidence. He started off the season on the right foot. Not only confidence in his abilities once he's gotten on the field and he's done the job and he's performed, he's got the confidence of Adrian Heath. I think that makes a big difference. Let's not forget when he came back and played with Minnesota United last year, when he was getting back on track, he had barely played in the last 15 to 18 months in Mexico with Liga MX. So he needed to get game fit, he needed to get his match fitness back, he needed to get just familiar with the pace of the game. And he is riding high and flying high from day one with confidence this year.
An opportunity here for Saprissa. Cordero just outmuscled and outwitted. Owundi now for Alexi Gomez. Player now with 11 appearances in Major League Soccer under his belt. It's safe to say, Kendra, he's had his critics. What have you made of what we've seen so far from the Peruvian?
I think he's still trying to figure his way. I think he's still trying to establish himself. I don't think that he's been as productive as Minnesota United faithful, or front office, I should say, and Adrian Heath included in that, have hoped he would be. I think he's a bit inconsistent. When he's not asked to do too much defensively, I think he's better off when he can just have the ability to go forward and have some freedom to attack. We can see the pace, we can see the ability. Maybe he's one of those players too, once he buries one, once he puts one away, what will that do for his confidence? Because right now I think he's forcing it a lot of times. He's trying to take a shot when he needs to be passing.
Lovely ball over to the right-hand side. Falls here for Maximiano. Toys in there as well. And it's well dealt with by Alejandro Gomez.
And that time he comes off his line. Perfect timing to come out and just get that ball. Miguel Ibarra already trying to make his mark on this game. A poor first touch by Maximiano allows Gomez to come and snatch it right at the 6. But we talked about a first touch earlier and how important that is. It was a great ball in by Miguel Ibarra, and Maximiano just didn't bring it down cleanly.
Here's Pangop into Colin Martin.
I think Alexi Gomez and Miguel Ibarra, Darwin Quintero, and Christian Ramirez up top, it's almost like the whole front four goes together. They either have this fantastic game where they are just clicking. If you really front six, if you want to include now Ibsen and Schuler sitting behind them in this new system, if they're all clicking and they're on the same page, then everyone is going and looking good. It seems like when they're an off day or an off night, they're all off at the same time. It's kind of an interesting dynamic, especially with those front four. Where you go one night, they can't miss on a pass, on a run, connecting, and then the next night, everything is just a half step or a half second off. Can they find that consistency and on the attack?
Seems though also Cortez will be coming on for Saprissa momentarily. Abundance of substitutions, we're told. Ricardo Blanco, part of the plethora coming in. Luis Perez as well. Mariano Torres, the other name coming in. As expected in these types of games. Martin to find Gomez on the far side. Find supporting Maximiano, who does return the favour. It's a perfectly timed challenge over on the far side. Cabral, the Argentine, making it. So here we go then. Jacal Medina will be coming out,
Substitution for
as well as Juan Bustos.
in the 67th minute. Checking in number 30, Walter Corte. Replacing number 14, Heiko Medina.
I didn't realise Belandis was there till I saw the thing. How long has he been there?
Also checking in number 12, Ricardo Blanco. Replacing number 21,
Substitutions
Juan
being made.
Bustos.
10's been a good player, Angulo. He's been a good player. Small, very small again.
Luis Perez.
Luis Stuart Perez checking in, replacing number
And now
31,
coming on.
Bertrand.
Whole host.
Line change, basically. We see that in this matchup, and I remember doing quite a few International Champions Cups games as well, which is also coming to the Twin Cities, and literally 11 players would change out at the half because this is a great opportunity for players to get some time, get some minutes, some match experience. As Saprissa makes a number of substitutions, and I'll just keep feeling as you keep replacing your sticky notes. There's a lot going on there.
Commentator's nightmare.
I think you've got 14 on your page actually right now. It'll be interesting to see who else Adrian decides to put in here in the second half. We saw the substitutions he already made on the wings with Gomez and Ibarra. And there's still a number of players who played a full 90 the other night against Houston, but it's a good opportunity to get...
Here's Heath in midfield.
Well done, Harry, go!
Gomez. There's a touch, Franz.
You think he's feeling it a little bit?
Just a little bit.
I mean, it's amazing what a little bit of confidence. I mean, we know Franz Pangup has some technical ability there. We've seen him at training. It's just a consistency factor. He needs to do it 2 or 3 days in a row at training, not just a one-off. He's got the pace.
Maximiano. Adrian Heath, as you can see, pleading for a free kick, which his side will win. Thus presenting an opportunity for Minnesota United.
That's actually a fun battle to watch, though, between Heiner Mora, the 34-year-old number 6, and Maximiano, because they're just both so strong on the ball, and they're shielding and they're positioning, just leaning into each other. Maximiano eventually gets the call.
So Alexi Gomez standing over the ball. Can Minnesota conjure up here? Gomez is ball in. And it's easy pickings for Alejandro Gomez in goal.
It was definitely bending towards the keeper, so it was easy for him just to get his hands on it.
He had the right idea, didn't he?
If he's going for goal with the left foot, absolutely. There's so many numbers in the box just on the edge of the 6. But with that left foot curling in, somebody redirect it, deflect it. Hate to beat a dead horse here, but how many set-piece goals have we seen in this World Cup? It's been unbelievable. Players getting on the end of some of those crosses and corners and services.
Over to the left-hand side. And just to sum up the substitutions that Saprissa made a little earlier on, 4 of them in all. Walter Cortes, just 18 years of age, coming on. The defender. The rest of them with so much more experience. Ricardo Blanco, 29 years of age. Mariano Torres, the 31-year-old Argentine, former Boca Juniors midfielder. And Luis Perez as well, 31 years of age, actually played with Francisco Calvo in 2012 for Perez Zeledon, who of course are the 2017 Apertura winners. Lamson took a nick on the way through. And here's Mason Toy. Touch just too heavy. Our microphones did pick up Adrian Heath saying that several substitutions will be made in a couple of minutes, and several of them are getting ready to come on. Pictures of Christian Ramirez and Colin Warner are just two of several that will be making their way into the game. Blanco forwards. Here's Blanco, the 29-year-old ex-Herediano. A real miscue in midfield for Saprissa. Maximiano down the line. Well dealt with by Mora.
I could only pick up some of what Amos was talking about sitting next to him over here, but what did you make of his comments about Mason Toy being 19 years old? Does it more depend on the player, not so much the age, or?
Sort of what I was asking him really, Kendra, was, a lot has been made about college kids being drafted, and when they come out too late at the ages of 22, 23. I think now with the academies in Major League Soccer, there's nowhere near the amount of emphasis on the draft that there used to be. And I'm fine with that. I'm not saying the draft is a bad thing, because there's been so much talent over the course since this league came into existence to come from the draft. But I think Mason Toy may very well spearhead a new breed where players are drafted, but they're drafted earlier and they come out at the age of 19. Yes, they can do their school in the evening and whatnot, but I think Mason Toy may very well spearhead a new generation. In the meantime, Carlos Villayes coming on, and Juan Guzman as well, the midfielder. Michael Barantes coming on as well for Saprissa. Substitutions, as to be expected. Christian Ramirez making his way onto the field. Toy and Martin go off. And Colin Martin, of course, the other player coming on for the home side. They go onto the field amid rapturous applause. Here's ball across and pang up and palmed aside. The ball had gone out of play anyway. Apologies if you heard some bad language.
This is another one of those tough turnarounds as we talk about this week, the short week, the traveling to Houston in the middle of it, Toronto FC on the road, back home. You have a friendly in the middle of the week, which is great for some of these guys that don't get minutes, but you still have some of your regulars getting time as well. And then you welcome RSL on Saturday. The only thing is, almost every club in MLS is in this exact same situation right now. The road versus home games might be different.
Here comes Saprissa, ball across and lashed towards goal. It's wayward to say the least.
But the amount of games in a short spell now is going to be the case for most clubs because of that World Cup break. Everybody is in the same situation. RSL just played last weekend. They played a friendly last night. They're heading here to play Minnesota on the weekend. So it's a tough stretch, but everybody's going through it at the same time. So nobody's going to feel sorry for you with your schedule and what you're facing ahead.
So another hydration break on what is a relatively warm evening here in the Twin Cities. Of course, Saprissa travelling the United States without a full roster. Some of the players unavailable, the likes of Johan Venegas, who will be familiar to Minnesota United fans, on loan to Saprissa. Jerry Benson as well, a player that may be familiar to New England Revolution fans. Of course, they'll be coming to America full of confidence after winning their 34th league title. They want to leave their American tour with a victory. But from a Minnesota United point of view, Kendra, you were talking about it then, it's all about balancing and giving certain players the right amount of minutes. Now, looking at the lineup that we have in front of us now for Minnesota United, if you are Adrian Heath, bearing in mind what you have available on the bench, what sort of moves would you be thinking of making?
Well, I think for the most part, he's just got a couple subs left. He's got Tyrone Mears, he's got Brent Coleman, and he's got Alex Kapp. I'm not sure if you throw Brent Coleman and Tyrone Mears out there in this game unless it's needed, unless it's necessary. A lot has been asked of those two. Tyrone Mears, 34, 35 years old. He played a full 90 minutes the other night in Houston. Brent Coleman, much the same. We don't know for sure what Michael Boxall's availability will be for the weekend against RSL. He's not available tonight. So if I'm him, I maybe just stick the last 12 minutes if my math is correct, and math is not my strong suit. I would stick with who you have on the field for the final 12 minutes. And that's unfortunate for a player like Alex Kapp, a goalkeeper, that's the third-string goalkeeper, because he is awesome in training. He is like a brick wall. Somehow his movement side to side, he does really well in training. But this is a kid who has not seen game minutes for a long time, and he needs to be on that USL kind of train that Amos was just talking about. So, but you got to get Lamson his time. So if I'm Adrian Heath, I'm keeping exactly who's on the field right now for the last 12, 13 minutes if we have some stoppage time out there for the rest of the match.
Well, Ramirez has broken the offside trap.
Unless you want to put a penalty kick specialist out there and make a substitution, because if we end in a tie, then in regulation we go straight to penalties.
Onside Ramirez is just unable to wriggle through, though. Maximiano playing his part, and the ball just goes out of play on the far side. As Kendra was insinuating, should it end as it is, no added time, no extra time, it'd go straight to penalty kicks. I think I've had enough of penalty kicks to last me a lifetime.
Man, this World Cup has just been insane.
Here's Owundi, who was, with all due respect, recovered well after the initial mistake.
Yes, and I'm glad for him that he did, because I really thought that could go the other way for him mentally. You can tell it. I felt like he seemed a little bit nervous to start the match. He didn't seem like himself, not comfortable in that position back there, kind of hesitating on his first touch, on his pass, stepping to the ball defensively. So the fact that he's kind of settled in and recovered nicely after that mistake that cost them that first goal, I'm happy for him to kind of gain his confidence back here as the game has gone on.
We'll get a touch of the ball here. Maybe not. Here's Carter Manley. Clever little flick by Pangop. And it was insinuated again by Heath. And Pangop tried to go alone.
That was a nice little run in behind by Ramirez. He picked out a perfect seam there, gave Pangop an option. Pangop chose to take it himself instead of slot him through, but I think Ramirez making that run and timing his run so he's in an onside position. He did really well with that one.
So with just over 8 minutes remaining here, Kendra, what have we seen this evening? Is there enough to suggest that there is enough depth on this team to move forward without being active in the transfer window?
No, I don't think there's enough depth with the players that are present here today as far as competing for starting positions and really putting pressure on the players that Adrian Heath wants to put on that sheet week in and week out for that starting 11. Sorry. I do not think the depth is here, and you need to continue to look and scout and bring in more players and bring in more talent. And look, even though they just signed 2 players, really good signings that are going to leave their mark on this game, we hope. They're not done yet. They're not resting on their laurels. They're not expecting those 2 players to come in and save the day. I think there absolutely needs to be more talent and more players brought in to help this team get where it's capable of going. That's not a knock on the players that we're seeing here tonight. It's just where they are in their game at this point in this development. We've got a lot of young players out there right now in Carter Manley, Omsberg, Mason Toy. You know, a lot of players that maybe aren't so young, but they don't have a ton of MLS minutes. So they're still finding their way, and players that are foreign players that have just come over and still trying to figure it out. Franz Penga, Maximiano, Owundi, perfect examples, even Alexi Gomez. So I just think right now, if you want to kind of set the table and does this team have the depth it needs right now to be successful, my straight answer would be no. And right there, that slide on Alexi Gomez, that's a perfect example of what we were talking about earlier, is where is his game lacking? It's his defense. He goes to ground almost every time defensively. So a player knows right away, especially a seasoned pro that's playing on the outside 1v1, Alexi Gomez, you got to make one move to get around him, and he's going to go to ground, and you've got him beat. So he's got to try to find a way to be a little bit more patient, keep his feet, keep an eye on the ball, because that's not going to work in that outside position. It's a clear pathway to goal for whoever beats him on that side.
Guzman forward to Perez. Mariano Torres. Dinked forwards. Perhaps an opening here for Saprissa. It is, and it's a goal. Really, really well worked by Saprissa. Delicately dinked forwards, and really well finished by the youngster Carlos Villanes. Just 19 years of age. He finished it with a boatload of experience behind him.
Well, and just a lofted ball, a chip in over the top here. Colin Warner going to step. Look at the backspin on that ball. Owundi goes to step with his left foot, misses, and Carter Manley doesn't quite track him across the box to the other side. Beats Matt Lamson. 2-1 in the 85th minute of this match. And really defensively, I thought Minnesota United has looked pretty solid here in the second half through the midfield and in the back. But the first miscue, too close of range, and a nice ball floated in over the top and finished. Finished your chances, and that's exactly what he did there.
Carlos Villegas with the goal. Never scored for Saprissa. That, of course, won't go down in the official record books as his first goal. It'll surely help him moving forward, though. Here's Maximiano. Dispossessed well. Ibarra on the scene. A little bit of afters.
I'll tell you right now, Adrian's not going to be happy about that. A late tackle coming in behind. Miguel Ibarra gets his legs taken out from under him.
Gomez with the ball in, just away from Ramirez. Goalkeeper allowed it to bounce and go away behind. Owundi firmly away. Free kick for Saprissa. Alison Heath, the guilty party this time. Here's Ibarra. It's a Heath. Warner.
What's crazy as this game kind of continues to wind down is Minnesota United not the only team that struggles with consistency in this league, and particularly in the Western Conference. As we look at some of the opponents upcoming, RSL, in my opinion, is a perfect example. For 1 minute, you're looking and going, good Lord, what in the world is going wrong with them? And Mike Petke trying to right the ship, and then the next minute, you know, they look really good and they get some wins, and it's just a position, I think, where clubs, especially in this Western Conference, are scratching their heads trying to find that consistency. And that's the difference between good teams and great teams, is they found a way to kind of weather those storms. They have depth coming off their bench. They have some solid players. And RSL is another one of those perfect examples. So I think a good test for Minnesota to try to get a W here at home on Saturday. What have you seen from RSL, and what do you like about what Mike Petke has done with that club?
Well, there's no doubt about it. Finally, he's got them playing some lovely flowing football. It's taken its time for his ideas to make their way into the mindset of Real Salt Lake and their players, but look at the likes of Albert Rusnak and Jefferson Savarino. They have some players, and the young lad up front, Baird, as well, is undoubtedly the recipient of a lot of creativity. We forget about Joao Plata as well.
Yes.
They do have some really good attacking pieces, Real Salt Lake, and there's no doubt about it, Kindra, they'll come here and they'll really fancy their chances. As we're told, there's 3 minutes of added time at the end of this particular game.
Saucedo is another player who I've been impressed with, his pace and his ability to create for RSL.
Operate almost under the radar, don't they, in what is a hefty, talent-filled Western Conference. Well, there is one or two unpleasantries off your screen. It seemed as though Maximiano was in the thick of it. There was clearly a shove, maybe even two.
Everybody's throwing their hands up. It's nobody's fault.
Never is.
Never is.
So Heath with the set piece and a chance for the Loons to equalise.
And the officials still having a conversation.
The Skulls are up in Minnesota. Still the referee delays. Not happy with something, is he?
He's not listening to it anymore either. He's just shaking his head, going, I saw what happened. I don't know whose fault it was, but the official saw it.
Well, Miguel Ibarra pleading his innocence to the likes of Ricardo Blanco and co. Mariano Torres having his say as well. Nevertheless, Heath with the ball in, away from Maximiano, and confidently cleared away.
That was a great ball in by Heath. Kind of lost in the moment there with all the other scuffle going on inside the box. A great ball in by Heath. Whipped in. Maximiano just tries to get on the end of it.
Yellow card to Alexander Robinson. And there will be a throwing to the Loons. They get themselves underway quickly. The referee blows the whistle. Well, the rain is lashing down here at TCF Bank Stadium. May very well bring many spectators' evenings to an end. Heavens just opened up out of nowhere. So into stoppage time. Four minutes of added time now, we're told.
4 minutes of stoppage time in the second half.
That's one thing about games like this. You want to get a good, solid match in, a good competitive match, but you never want to end up with any injuries or any issues as tempers seem to flare, emotions are high. It's still a competition. Players still want to win these games. There's still physical battles inside the box.
So the free kick taken. Manly winning it not once but twice. Although now it is getting out of hand. Harrison Heath having a thing or two to say to several of the Saprissa players. The challenge, no doubt about it, Kendra, was clumsy and late on Carter Manley.
Absolutely. That was a clear foul there, a late challenge. I'd have to look at the replay to find out exactly where he caught him. But it was not clean, and it was late, and Carter Manley comes up limping after he's had a really solid game in the back.
Here's Colin Warner, lofting forward for the Loons. Pangop winning it in mid-flight. Maximiano helping it on, and lashed away by Saprissa, and glanced forward again. A free kick in favour of Minnesota, much to the annoyance of the Saprissa bench. Heath again on set-piece duties. Launched forwards. And here comes Alexander Robinson. Now the ball is blocked. And now Pangop. Perhaps a chance to stretch the legs one last time. Pangop, unable to beat the first man. Ball played in. Ibarra, Ramirez misses. A gilt-edge opportunity. Well, it just about sums up his spell at the moment. So there we have the full-time whistle. Saprissa victorious in Minnesota. Goals coming from David Ramirez and France Pangop in the opening 45. And late in the second, the youngster Carlos Villegas, 19 years of age, scoring his first goal for Saprissa. It'll be an evening Minnesota United will want to quickly push aside and now move on to the real thing and a big game against Real Salt Lake on Saturday. Final score, Minnesota United 1, Saprissa 2.